You know what's insane? We brag about being exhausted the way soldiers brag about scars. I worked 70 hours this week. I haven't slept in 3 days. I'm grinding. When did being tired become a flex? Here's what no one wants to admit. If you're proud of your 60-hour weeks, you're not ambitious. You're domesticated. This isn't a motivational video. This is a naming of the cage. Only a slave measures his worth by how busy he is. Let that sit for a second. Because if productivity is the proof that you deserve to exist, then rest becomes guilt, silence becomes fear, and doing nothing feels like dying. We live in a world where the first question people ask you isn't, "Are you at peace?" It's, "What do you do?" And if your answer isn't impressive enough, you feel it. That quiet shame, that sense that you're falling behind in a race you never agreed to run. You don't introduce yourself as, "I'm Michael." You say, "I'm a software engineer at Google. I'm a marketing manager at Salesforce." Your job title replaced your name. Your output replaced your soul. And we call this progress. From the time you're a child, you're trained like a worker in a factory. Wake up at 6 a.m., sit still for 8 hours, ask permission to use the bathroom, memorize, regurgitate, repeat. Raise your hand, stay in line, don't question the system. They grade you on compliance. They reward you for obedience. They punish you for thinking differently, and then they tell you, "Do this long enough and you'll be free." But freedom never arrives. You graduate into another building, another schedule, another fluorescent-lit room where you trade hours for permission to survive. College becomes debt. Debt becomes chains, and those chains become the reason you can't say no to the job that's killing you. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. You were never meant to escape. You were meant to produce. Hustle culture isn't just a mindset. It's a religion. The altar is productivity. The god is efficiency. The sacrament is coffee at midnight, and the highest virtue is exhaustion. People wear their burnout like a badge of honor. "I answered emails until 2 a.m. I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. I'm built different." No, you're not built different. You're broken in the same way as everyone else. You've just convinced yourself that the breaking is strength. Here's the quiet truth no one wants to admit. If working harder doesn't bring you closer to peace, then you're not building a life. You're feeding a machine that doesn't love you, a machine that will replace you the moment you slow down, a machine that will have your job posted before your funeral ends. I've seen it close up. People making $500,000 a year, living in luxury apartments, driving cars that cost more than their parents' houses. And yet, their eyes are hollow, their relationships are shallow, their future is just more work. They don't dream of rest, they dream of scaling the cage, bigger cage, golden bars, same prison. Here's what they don't tell you. For most of human history, the greatest men were not the busiest men. They walked, they read, they debated under trees, they prayed in silence, they sat still long enough to hear their own thoughts. Isaac Newton didn't grind. He disappeared to the countryside during a plague and came back with gravity, calculus, and optics. Einstein napped 10 hours a day. Tesla took long walks through Vienna, lost in thought. Nikola Tesla once walked around a city park just thinking and discovered the rotating magnetic field that powers the modern world. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man alive, emperor of Rome, and he journaled in silence every morning, writing to himself about virtue and humility. The philosophers weren't clocking in, the saints weren't optimizing workflows, the builders of civilization weren't refreshing their inboxes. They understood something we've forgotten. A man who does not own his time owns nothing at all. Genius requires white space, not grind. Wisdom requires stillness, not speed. Depth requires silence, not stimulation. But we've built a world that punishes all three. Here's the trap. You're told to work hard so you can finally live. But once you start working hard, living gets postponed forever. I'll rest when I make 6 figures. Then it's, I'll rest when I make 7 figures. Then it's, I'll rest when I retire. And then you're 65, your body is broken, your kids barely know you, and you realize you traded your entire life for money you're too old to enjoy. Work was meant to serve life. Life was never meant to serve work. There is a difference between labor and slavery. Work is honorable when it serves your family, when it builds something meaningful, when it allows you to sleep at night with dignity. But when your self-worth rises and falls with your productivity, when you feel guilty for taking a day off, when you can't remember the last time you felt genuinely at peace, you're not free. You're managed. You ever notice how Sunday evening feels like dread creeping in? That pit in your stomach around 5 p.m., that heaviness when you realize Monday is coming, that sinking feeling when you think about your week ahead. You tell yourself it's normal. Everyone feels this way, but it's not normal. That's Stockholm Syndrome. You've been conditioned to accept a life that slowly suffocates you. And the worst part? You defend it. Someone suggests working less, and you say, but I have bills to pay, but I have responsibilities, but that's just how the world works. You're right. That is how the world works. But who built this world, and who benefits from you never questioning it? The system needs you exhausted, because exhausted people don't resist. They comply. The system needs you distracted, because distracted people don't think deeply. They consume. The system needs you desperate, because desperate people accept anything. They obey. I know people who've made it. 7-figure incomes, corner offices, their faces in magazines. And you know what they tell me in private? I feel empty. I don't know who I am anymore. I can't stop even though I want to. Because when work becomes your identity, you don't know who you are without it. Your personality becomes your profession. Your hobbies become networking. Your friendships become connections. Everything is transactional. Everything is optimized. Everything is measured. And somewhere in all that efficiency, you disappeared. The person you were at 12 years old, dreaming under the stars, gone. The version of you that laughed until your stomach hurt, buried under spreadsheets. The part of you that felt wonder, curiosity, aliveness, sacrificed at the altar of productivity. And for what? A title that means nothing when you're alone? Money that buys comfort but not peace? Respect from people who'd forget you in a week? So what's the answer? The answer isn't laziness. It's reclamation. Reclaim your time. Reclaim your silence. Reclaim your inner life. You don't need more money. You need fewer masters. You don't need to be impressive. You need to be rooted. You weren't born to be efficient. You were born to be alive. Here's what reclamation looks like. It's saying no to the promotion that requires your soul. It's turning off notifications after 6 p.m. It's taking a walk with no destination. It's sitting in silence without guilt. It's remembering that your children won't remember how many emails you answered. They'll remember whether you were present. It's understanding that on your deathbed, you won't wish you worked more. You'll wish you lived more. Reclamation is radical because it refuses the game entirely. Not playing harder, not playing smarter, just not playing. So if you feel tired, if you feel disconnected, if the grind feels empty, you're not broken. You're waking up. You're remembering something ancient, that you are not your productivity. You are not your output. You are not your job title. You are a human being. And human beings were made for more than emails and deadlines. Maybe the most radical act in a world that worships productivity is to sit still, think deeply, and refuse to sell your soul for a paycheck. Because only a slave needs to justify his existence, and you were not born a slave. This week, I want you to do something. Block off 2 hours. No phone, no work, no productivity. Just exist. Sit, walk, think, stare at the sky. And if you feel guilty, good. That guilt is the cage recognizing you're trying to escape. Feel it, and do it anyway. Comment below if you actually do this. Let's see who's brave enough to be free.